They found a 71% lower chance of developing insulin resistance because it actually got the insulin receptor to work.
Imagine for a second that there was a mineral sitting quietly on a pharmacy shelf. Cheap, ordinary, easy to find. And someone just told you it could cut your risk of insulin resistance by 71%. 71%. Not 10. Not 20. 71. You would stop everything. You would grab your phone. You would order it before the video even finished playing. And honestly, who could blame you? That number sounds like the answer to something millions of people have been searching for their entire lives. Now imagine that same mineral was linked to a 47% lower chance of developing type 2 diabetes over the next 20 years. That it unlocked your vitamin D. That it calmed your nervous system. That it helped you sleep deeper and think clearer and pull your metabolism back from the edge. All for a few dollars a month. All from a single tablet you swallow once a day. It sounds almost too good to be true. And that right there is exactly where we need to start. Because I recently came across a video making all of these claims. It was polished. It was confident. The studies it referenced were real. The numbers were quoted correctly. And buried right in the middle of all of it was a discount code for a supplement that the creator wanted you to buy. That is when I knew I had to make this video. Here is what we are going to do today. First, I am going to give magnesium the full, honest credit it deserves, because some of what is being said is actually true. Then I am going to show you exactly where the story falls apart. And then I am going to show you what the evidence actually says works, and how powerful it really is compared to any mineral in any bottle. Hi viewers, have you ever bought a supplement because a video or an ad convinced you it would change your health? And did it actually work or did nothing change? Because here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. That 71% figure did not come from nowhere. Came from a real study, a published, peer-reviewed piece of research with real participants and real data. And the people who use that number to sell you something are not technically lying. They are just not telling you the whole story. And the part they are leaving out changes everything. I have spent a serious amount of time going through the actual research behind these claims. Not the headlines. Not the summaries. The studies themselves. And what I found is one of the cleanest examples I have ever seen of how a true number can be used to tell a completely false story. The number is real. The conclusion they are drawing from it is not. And by the time this video is over, you will never look at a supplement claim the same way again that you said. Continue with the above sequence your task. Continue with chapters 2, 3, 4, then the final and concluding chapter 5 only. High priority, maintain my specify. So let us start with what is actually true. Because magnesium is not a scam. It is not a myth. And I am not here to dismiss it entirely. That would be just as dishonest as the people selling it to you. Magnesium is a mineral your body uses in over 300 biochemical reactions. 300. It is involved in how your muscles contract, how your nerves fire, how your heart maintains its rhythm, and critically, how your body manages blood sugar. This is not small. This is not trivial. This is a mineral that sits at the center of some of the most important processes keeping you alive right now. And here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Inside your pancreas, there are specialized cells whose entire job is to release insulin into your bloodstream when your blood sugar rises. Magnesium helps the electrical signaling inside those cells work properly. Think of it like the wiring behind a light switch. The switch still exists without the wiring, but nothing turns on. Then out in your muscles, magnesium helps the insulin signal land cleanly on the cell. Insulin knocks on the door. Magnesium helps the door open. Without enough of it, the signal gets weaker. The door stays partially shut. And your cells start becoming resistant to insulin over time. That is a real mechanism, backed by real science. And here is the part that makes this genuinely concerning. Most people in the modern world are not getting enough magnesium from their food. Not because they are careless, but because the food itself has changed. Heavily processed food, which now makes up the majority of what many people eat every single day, has had most of its magnesium stripped away during manufacturing. The mineral that was once abundant in whole grains, in dark leafy greens, in legumes and seeds, is largely gone by the time that food reaches your plate. So the deficiency is real. The mechanism is real. The concern is legitimate. If that were the whole story, I would tell you to go and buy a magnesium supplement right now and I would end this video here. But that is not the whole story. Not even close. Because here is where things start to get very uncomfortable. That 71% figure. The number that stops people mid-scroll. The number that has been plastered across supplement advertisements and health videos and wellness blogs. Where exactly did it come from? Came from a study. A real one. Published in a peer-reviewed journal. The numbers were not fabricated. But when you actually read what the researchers did, the picture changes completely. This study took 234 people. All of them had metabolic syndrome, which is a cluster of conditions including high blood pressure, excess body fat around the waist, and abnormal blood sugar levels that together raise your risk of serious illness. The researchers followed these people for 1 year. They asked them what they were eating, and they tracked a marker of insulin resistance over that time. Here is the critical detail. Nobody in that study was given a magnesium supplement. Not one person. The researchers simply observed that the people who happened to eat the most magnesium in their regular diet were the least likely to develop worsening insulin resistance over that year. That is the entire foundation of the 71% figure. An observation, pattern noticed from a distance. Not a treatment, not a pill, not an intervention of any kind. And then the 47% figure follows the exact same shape. That number came from a separate study that followed around 4,500 people over 20 years. Researchers tracked what they ate and recorded who went on to develop type 2 diabetes. The people eating the most magnesium had a 47% lower chance of getting the diagnosis. Again, no supplement was given. No magnesium pill was tested. It was purely observational data, watching eating habits from the outside and noting what happened over 2 decades. Now stop for a moment, because this is where the most important question in this entire video lives. Where is magnesium actually found in food? Leafy green vegetables, beans and lentils, nuts and seeds, whole grains, foods that are rich in fiber, color, and nutrients. Foods that nutritionists and doctors have been recommending for decades for reasons that have nothing to do with magnesium specifically. So the people eating the most magnesium in these studies were not some isolated group who happened to take a particular mineral. They were the people eating the most whole, unprocessed, fiber-rich food. They were the people whose plates looked completely different from the average person's plate. They were the people already doing something fundamentally right about the way they ate. The magnesium was just along for the ride. Think about it this way. Imagine you noticed that people who have mud on their boots tend to live longer. You could conclude that mud protects your health. Or you could step back and realize that people with mud on their boots spend more time outside, walking, moving, breathing fresh air, staying active. The mud is not the cause. It is just a trace of something deeper. Magnesium in these studies works exactly the same way. And it goes even further than the food alone. Because someone who has decided to eat whole, fiber-rich, colorful food is rarely making that choice in isolation. That same person is usually more likely to be exercising regularly, more likely to be getting enough sleep, more likely to be managing their stress, more likely to be paying attention to their health across every dimension of their life. All of that gets bundled silently into the data. All of it inflates the number. But here is the part that truly settles the argument. Researchers can actually test this directly. Using statistics, they can strip out the effect of fiber from the data. They can mathematically compare people as if they were all eating identical amounts of fiber, and then ask whether the magnesium itself still makes any meaningful difference on its own. When they did that, the link between magnesium and insulin resistance largely disappeared. Let me say that again because it is the turning point of everything we are discussing today. Once you account for the fiber, the magnesium effect mostly evaporates. The credit belongs to the whole food, to the fiber, to the full nutritional package that magnesium happens to travel inside. Not to the magnesium itself. The mineral was the passenger. The food was the driver. And the supplement industry quietly lifted the passenger out of the car, put it in a bottle, slapped a 71% on the label and started selling it. So what actually happens when you test a magnesium supplement directly? When you strip away the healthy diet entirely and just give someone the isolated pill? This is where the story takes a turn that no supplement advertisement will ever show you. There is a specific type of research that answers this question cleanly. It is called a randomized controlled trial. You take 2 groups of people. You give one group a real magnesium supplement and the other group an identical dummy pill that contains nothing active at all. Neither group knows which one they are taking. Then you wait and measure the outcomes. This is the closest thing science has to proof of cause and effect. It removes the lifestyle noise. It removes the dietary differences. It isolates the pill itself and asks the single most important question in medicine. Does this actually work? And the results when it comes to magnesium supplements and blood sugar control are sobering. When researchers gather all of these trials together and analyze them as a whole, magnesium supplementation produces a very small effect on one specific marker of insulin resistance. That is about as far as it goes. It does not meaningfully lower fasting blood sugar in most people. It does not significantly reduce circulating insulin levels. It does not improve your long-term blood sugar marker, the one called HbA1c, unless people take it consistently for many months or even years, and even then the effect is modest at best. Take away the whole food diet. Hand someone the isolated pill. and that 71% shrinks down to something that is barely measurable. The headline was never about magnesium on its own. It was about the broccoli and the lentils and the kale and the whole grains that the magnesium came wrapped inside. Remove the packaging and the promise disappears with it. History has shown us this trap before. For years, observational studies suggested that women taking hormone replacement therapy had lower rates of heart disease. The association looked strong. It looked convincing. So for a period, it was partly recommended for heart protection. Then the proper randomized trials were run. And not only did it fail to protect the heart, it was found to slightly raise the risk. The observation had been pointing at something real, but the pill could not replicate what the observation was measuring. Then there was beta-carotene, the antioxidant found naturally in carrots and orange vegetables. People who ate more of it appeared to have lower rates of lung disease. The logic seemed obvious. Extract it, concentrate it, put it in a capsule. But when researchers tested that capsule in a large trial involving smokers, rates of lung disease went up. The trial was stopped before it was supposed to finish because the harm became too clear to ignore. In both cases, the food was a signal pointing at a healthy life. The isolated compound extracted from that food either did nothing or made things worse. The pattern is not an accident. Keeps appearing because the logic behind it is always the same. You cannot take one thread out of a tapestry and expect it to hold the same picture. Now let us talk about something the supplement promoters definitely do not want to discuss. Safety. The recommended upper limit for magnesium from supplements is 350 milligrams per day. That number exists for a reason. Above that threshold, magnesium acts as a laxative in many people. Not occasionally. Not rarely. In a significant number of people who exceed that limit, it causes persistent loose stools, cramping, and ongoing digestive disruption that can last for days or weeks. And the consequences are not just uncomfortable. Prolonged digestive disturbance leads to dehydration. It flushes other important minerals out of your body along the way. And here is the cruel irony. It can actually stop you absorbing the magnesium you are trying to take in the first place. Your gut starts moving everything through so rapidly that the magnesium has no time to be absorbed before it exits your system entirely. So you spend money on a supplement, experience real physical discomfort, and end up with less magnesium than you started with. Now you might think the sensible move is simply to get your magnesium levels tested first. And that instinct is reasonable. But here is the problem. The standard blood test for magnesium is close to useless for this purpose. Only about 1% of your body's total magnesium is actually circulating in your blood. The rest of it is locked inside your cells and stored in your bones. So your blood level can read completely normal while your tissues are quietly running low. The test looks fine. The problem remains hidden. There is a more accurate way to measure it, but it is rarely available through routine healthcare. For most people, in practice, a reliable magnesium reading simply cannot be obtained through standard channels. And then there is the kidney issue. In a healthy person with well-functioning kidneys, the body is remarkably good at clearing excess magnesium. Your kidneys act like an overflow valve, quietly removing what you do not need before it builds up. But kidney function naturally declines as we age. And in someone whose kidneys are already under strain, that overflow valve stops working properly. Magnesium accumulates. And at elevated levels, that accumulation can cause a drop in blood pressure, muscle weakness, nausea, and serious fatigue. If you are over 50, or if you have any history of kidney problems, or if you are already taking medications that affect kidney function, please do not start any supplement based on a video. Speak to your doctor first. Get your kidney function checked. That one step matters far more than any mineral decision you will ever make. So where does all of this leave us? The supplement is not the answer. The studies that produced those dramatic numbers were measuring something real. But what they were measuring was not a pill. It was a life, a way of eating, a pattern of choices made consistently over years. And no tablet on earth has ever been able to replicate that. The Diabetes Prevention Program, one of the most significant trials ever run in this space, proved exactly that. Researchers took thousands of people on the edge of developing type 2 diabetes. They split them into two groups. One group was given metformin, the most prescribed diabetes medication in the world, the drug that hundreds of millions of people take every single day. The other group simply changed how they lived. They lost a modest amount of weight. They improved what they ate. They walked for around 150 minutes a week. The lifestyle group reduced their risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 58%. Metformin managed 31%. Free habits, available to everyone, beat the world's leading drug by nearly double. The trial was stopped early because the results were too powerful and too clear to keep going. And think about what that lifestyle change was actually doing beyond the blood sugar numbers. It was strengthening the heart. It was protecting the joints. It was reducing inflammation throughout the body. It was improving sleep quality, lifting mood, sharpening cognitive function. No single medication does all of that simultaneously. No supplement comes close. Building muscle adds another layer. Muscle tissue acts like a sponge for blood sugar, drawing glucose out of the bloodstream and storing it without requiring insulin to do the work. The more muscle you carry, the more metabolic buffer you have. A short walk after meals flattens the blood sugar spike that follows eating more effectively than almost anything you could swallow. Sleeping properly, consistently, matters more than most people realize. Even a few nights of disrupted sleep can temporarily push your body toward insulin resistance. Sitting less throughout the day keeps your metabolism from stagnating between those active periods. None of these things cost a single penny. All of them defend you against not just blood sugar problems but heart disease, cognitive decline, low mood, and early physical deterioration. Simultaneously, continuously, for free. Picture two people. One reads about magnesium, feels reassured, buys the supplement, changes nothing else. The other ignores the bottle entirely and starts walking every day, lifts weights twice a week, eats real food, sleeps properly. The first person has purchased a feeling of progress. The second person has just accessed a 58% drop in diabetes risk and an 80% reduction in their odds of dying early from any cause. These are not slightly different paths. They lead to completely different lives. One path leads to a waiting room at 60, a list of medications, a body that needs managing. The other leads to 85, still moving, still independent, still present for the people around you. I see both of those futures play out regularly. The difference between them is rarely a supplement. It is almost always the quiet, unglamorous, daily choices that nobody can sell you. So here is the honest answer to the question this video started with. Is the 71% real? Yes. Is it about magnesium? No. It is about the food the magnesium travels inside. It is about the life that food belongs to. If you are already eating whole, colorful, fiber-rich food regularly, you are almost certainly getting enough magnesium from your plate. If you are doing that alongside moving your body, building strength, sleeping well, and sitting less, then you do not need a supplement to chase a number that was never measuring what they told you it was measuring. The supplement is the last 1%. The free habits are the 99. Start there. Stay there. And never let a discount code buried inside a confident video convince you otherwise.